All right, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Croissant. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Today, guys, we gotta go on for you because Legend ZA is getting review bombed. But before we get into that, I know I haven't uploaded in a little bit over a week now, and it's just been really crazy, honestly, with work, and we're getting the house ready because we're getting a dog soon, and we're going away on vacation. So I'm just getting caught up on everything gaming news. But recently Legends ZA dropped and it's not being received very well. In fact, it's getting review bombed on a lot of review sites like Metacritic. That's what we're going to talk about today. The Metacritic user score has absolutely plummeted for this game, guys. It's currently at a 4.1 at the time of recording this, and who gives a shit about the critics? But the critic score is a 79. And just for, a reference point, Digimon, the new Digimon game, Digimon Story Time Stranger or whatever, has a user score of 9.4. And it has the same critic score of 79. And obviously, you do not take the words of critics because a lot of them are just shills and they will just write a good reviews to be in the good graces of the company, right? And it's not where you should be putting your 2 cents, right? In terms of like, whose opinion are you taking? And it's skewed on both ends, right? People are leaving really bad reviews and good reviews despite Pokemon, right? For both Digimon and Pokemon ZA, right? Bad reviews, like I'm talking out of 10, like zeros and ones. And honestly, ZA is not a 0. It's not a 1, right? We all know it, but it's just being review bombed to hell to lower the user score as low as possible. And we'll get into the reviews in a little bit, but it took me a while to get down to, keep scrolling through the zeros and the ones to get to like a realistic review of the actual game, because some people are just putting 0 to spite the company and they haven't even played a single minute of the game. And vice versa, people haven't played Digimon, but they're giving it a 10 or a 9 because they want to spite Pokemon and give Digimon, a better user score. So we're going to talk about Legends ZA, but I want to be clear that this is not a review. I have not purchased a copy yet, and I only have a Switch One. And I feel like it's useless to spend $60, right? $60 is a lot nowadays for a new game. And you're paying $60 for an even more lackluster experience, right, than the Switch 2 copy. And then on top of that, you're paying $90 to $100 if you buy it with the day one DLC. Now, one of the biggest critiques, right, I'm seeing about Legends ZA are the graphics, and God, do they look rough. I'm talking PlayStation 3 graphics, but it really looks like Game Freak created the minimal viable product. Right, the absolute shittiest version of the game that would be acceptable to be released was released. And somehow they made it look like Scarlet and Violet, right? This is supposed to get better over time. Almost every building has one layer of depth, and it's basically like a 2D like art rendered on top of a 3D model, which is just like a rectangle like box, and that's every building. Now, some of the Pokemon models, they don't look bad. I'd say like the animations on some of the moves are actually pretty good, right? And the battle system we're going to talk about too is like a shining part of this game. Now, it's just crazy in 2025, right? Pokemon, they still have a tough time rounding off edges. And having NPCs in the background without having them to like fade in and out, right? To conserve resources that like impact the performance of the game. And I thought that was like the whole reason of doing this in Lumio City. Right, the idea was making the game take place in an entire city, right? And that way you could really improve on the actual performance and like the graphical capabilities, because you're not having to animate these wide landscapes and open world areas, taking away from performance. Honestly, one bright point I've been hearing about this game, and obviously like seeing online, is that the combat is actually fun. And it's exciting, right? The battle system in Legends ZA no longer turn-based, and the player is actually able to position Pokemon, within the confines of the battlefield, and use certain moves, that you might not have used before in a mainline Pokemon game, because these moves are like trash, for the campaign. Like, who's using Growl? Who's using Stealth Rock in a main Pokemon game in, like, late game, to be honest? Let's be honest. So all the moves run on a timer rather than traditional turn-based system where, like, you have a certain amount of each move to use, right? Now, I wonder where they got that from. Then there's also more minor complaints, right? I've been hearing the game is very hand-holdy, and then it makes you walk through this very long tutorial phase until you can actually move on with accessing the rest of the map. And I get it's made for kids, but it's like not everybody who's playing this is a kid. And like having no voice acting. And adding the option to run away from like trainer battles, it's just like, this is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And also the Pokemon don't really interact with the environment. Right? Like you'll go and talk to an NPC about like how much the Pokemon are causing a problem, and they're causing all these problems everywhere. I wish Pokemon weren't here. Like I don't even want to live with them. And then you don't really see Pokemon doing anything right in the overworld. Like causing problems, make it feel like immersive. Another thing was the budget, right, for this game. It was leaked, and apparently it cost $13 million to make this game. And again, we're talking about Pokemon, one of the largest franchises and pieces of media, not in the country, on this planet. Even Breath of the Wild had a budget of at least $100 million. And it's sad to say, but this is looking like the average cost for a Pokemon game, because like Legends Arceus, right, cost $14.4 million to make. Scarlet and Violet, $22 million to make. And people hated Scarlet and Violet, and they thought it looked like crap. With even a big budget, quote unquote, of $22 million. It just doesn't help the argument that Game Freak and Nintendo are doing the bare minimum. And we keep and they'll keep feeding Pokemon fans whatever slop they give them, because they're gonna like it and be happy, because it's Pokemon. So what are people saying? Let's look at some of the reviews on Metacritic, right? First, I just want to bring up this example of why critics don't really know shit, to be honest. The Sixth Axis says, unlike the most recent Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Legends ZA is a game that really holds your attention. The spiritual successor of Legends Arceus, it's learned from the mistakes of the distant past and beautifully shows what city life is like in the Pokemon universe. I can see myself playing this for another 100 hours as I finish my Pokédex shiny hunt and generally have a great time. This is easily the best Pokemon game on the market. Delusional. 100 out of 100 score. And then I love going to the next one. It's like these are actual user score. JP Fidum said, this game is just awful. By far the worst Pokemon game I've played. The location being just a single city where a majority of the doors and buildings are nothing is a major letdown. No real exploration, and button-mashing battles. If I could rate this with a negative number, I would. It's pretty clear the critics are on payroll. Pathetic. I mean, that's just like, come on. That's too funny. Another one. Faye Drift says, I've been a fan since I beat Red on Game Boy, and played every single game since. After the last two mainline games, had me feeling average to slightly disappointed. This is the final time I give Pokemon a pass on the quality of their games. I encourage everyone to go play Digimon Storytime Stranger and see what a monster collecting game can do, and stop letting Nintendo gaslight us. Amen, brother. And I actually tried to find a good review from a user on Metacritic, and I had to scroll down quite a long way, guys. But let's take a look at this review, a 9 out of 10 from Dadestar. The game is perfectly good. No idea why it's getting poor reviews. The graphics are Switch graphics. Who thought it would be modern graphics? That makes zero sense. Listen, Dadestar, I appreciate the time you put in making this review. But we're not asking for modern graphics. We're asking for not PlayStation 3 graphics. And I feel like for the leading franchise in the world, I think we could expect at least Xbox One graphics. No, not even. At least PlayStation 4 graphics, because some PlayStation 4 games actually look good. And I'd say the Switch 2 is probably on par with the PlayStation 4. in terms of graphical capabilities. It's a strong console for a handheld, right? It's not as strong as like a PS5, but it's pretty strong. I'd say PS4 level. I found one in the middle, right? Gab SNC25 said, "It's not the best Pokemon of all time, and it's not as good as I was expecting, but it continues a good average game. It is actually very polished, different from Scarlet and Violet. The story it's the greatest point of this game. It's a Legend spin-off. There is nothing to complain about the story here. The side quests are funny, but the new Mega Evolution designs and the map textures just piss me off. And the price. The game is good, but it should cost $40, not $70. If I could give a 7.5, I would. But I had to choose between 7 and 8, and 7 is the best option. I guess there's nothing more to add here. 7 out of 10, and I agree, honestly. Like, if the game was really $40 when it launched, I'd be like, all right, Game Freak, I get it. I'll get it day one for $40. People might even consider buying the day one DLC. Because altogether it would be like the price of a full game. But you'd have to obviously offer something with the DLC instead of just costumes. And then actual content until next year. Now, what are they saying about Digimon? JJDM88 says, in terms of gameplay and story, it's 10 out of 10. But they chop out a lot of content and force it into DLC, which brings the score down. Still one of the best options for a modern monster RPG. And this is a similar sentiment that I'm seeing online, is that, it is a $70 game, full price game, right? But they're adding a lot of DLC on the back end that makes up for lack of content. But still, the overall content that is in the base game is still very good. And when you compare it to Legends ZA, it's considerably better. And it was an average, review, so I thought it'd be worth it. And obviously, it didn't take long to find a good review. It did take a while to find a bad review. Humulos gave a 4 out of 10, perfectly adequate RPG so far, nothing mind-blowing, but Digimon fans should enjoy. The amount of monetary extortion from Bandai, however, is inexcusable and prevents me from truly recommending it. This game is already not worth $70, and you are expecting to pay another $50 on top of that to get so basic additional content down the road. Worst of all, there are optional dungeons available for purchase as well to help ease grinding, which raises the question of whether the game is balanced in a way to push users toward using those options. That's not even all the purchasable content, making this game in some ways feel more like you just paid $70 for a store to buy more content within. I'm willing to overlook this to a degree in a free multiplayer game, but this is a full-priced single-player experience and results in a very anti-consumer product from Bandai. Played 4 hours before refunding. Hey, I get it. If they're truly adding that much DLC to the back end, and it's to the extent where, the main story is lacking, and it's definitely not worth $70, and you're like, I definitely can't get this game until it's on sale. It would never justify a $70 purchase. I get that, bro. I get that. And I haven't played Digimon, so I can't even speak to that. But it's just interesting. I'm talking, Humulos was one of 3 negative reviews I found on Metacritic. And so, again, earlier, people are just review bombing Pokemon, but also review buffing Digimon. So it's, hard to find a good medium. But I tried to do that. Now, if you like Pokemon and you have fun playing the game, I don't judge you, right? I'm a fan of Pokemon. I'm just not a fan of where Pokemon is going and where it has been going, and the level of quality is going down, or it's staying very stagnant at the very least, but the price is only increasing for these products. Like, once I get a Switch 2 around December, I'll make a decision whether I really want to play this game or not, but to me, at this moment, it just seems like a lot of corporate greed. I really wish Game Freak would just give Pokemon and the licenses to a development studio that generally gave a crap and that genuinely wants to make a great Pokemon game, because to me, Legends CA feels like a husk of what the genuine of what like Pokemon originally made me feel growing up. The excitement and the wonder. And it wasn't until I played Power World where I realized that this was a Monster Tamer game with love and passion and great ideas behind it. Genuine great ideas behind it. And as Nintendo and Game Freak roll out these lawsuits against Pal World, it's clear to see that they truly are afraid of competition. And the general public is starting to realize the level of quality of these games is not up to par with the expectations of the market. And I'm super happy for Digimon too, on the flip side, because their success, I'm very happy for them, because I feel like I haven't played a Digimon game since like the PlayStation 1. Right? They're taking a page from Battlefield 6, guys. They're launching directly against a competitor in the same genre and capitalizing on the other's downfall. Right? Battlefield 6 is doing so well, not only because it's a great game, but because Black Ops 7 and 6 are garbage. And if the average gamer only has enough disposable income to buy one shooter a year, they're going to go with Battlefield 6 as a better shooter experience. Just like people are going to go with Digimon for a better RPG monster taming experience for $70. And you know what? Digimon is probably going to be on sale for like $59 or $55 in a couple months. Legends ZA is going to be $70 till the end of time. And it's still going to be a crappy experience. So to each their own. I really want to know what you guys think down below. If you've played the game, give me your thoughts and feedback. And what do you think of the game if you've played it? And if you haven't, are you going to pick it up? Let me know down in the comments. If you've made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you for watching. I'm going to try and record a bunch of videos this weekend so I can upload throughout the week. And yeah, just look forward to more content. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And I will see y'all soon. Peace.